Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and it's time for part 2 of the Q&A, so let me get my hat on, and let's get this started. Alright, first question. Jason, if my goal is more like an athletic/classical body, I'm not a bodybuilder or powerlifter, the overhead press, weighted dips, and floor press are better options than the flat bench press. I'm currently doing more incline closed grip bench than flat bench. The floor press is good for the upper chest. Thanks. Alright, here's what we're talking about. I'm not saying don't bench press. I'm not saying don't do any chest work if you enjoy doing it, because there's certainly something to be said for the classic physique to having some chest development. But what I'm saying is overly developed pectorals isn't part of the classic physique. Overly developed, because that's what's been pushed in bodybuilding for a while, is to develop pectorals, lower pectorals that are excessively large in comparison, by focusing on all of that. So it's again putting far more emphasis on overhead work, which again is probably better for overall athleticism and maybe some incline work and stuff. I'm not saying you can't do these things, but you need to understand if you're talking about lower chest development, the floor press and the dip are going to give you just as much lower chest as the bench press is. So I don't think you're going to see a substantial difference there. And so generally for people who are just looking for hypertrophy purposes, to make their chest bigger, I think the floor press is a completely acceptable replacement for the bench press. Okay, I think it can completely replace it if that's what you wanted to do, particularly if you don't have access to a bench. I don't see a problem there. People who just have a rack and no bench, say at their home or whatever, yeah, the floor press will give you all the development you're going to get out of the bench press if that's what you have access to. That's the way guys did it in the old school before benches were even invented. But again, I want to point out you need to keep your emphasis on the overhead work and the incline work if your goal is that specific classic look. You don't want to be too pec heavy. Alright, you want shoulders and upper chest to dominate your lower chest as far as all that goes for development. So just some points to be aware of there. Just what you need to remember when you're looking at it. Alright, next question. Hey Jason, I just completed a 4-week hypertrophy block and have found that touching heavier weights in the 80 to 85% range feels a lot harder than normal. Is this to be expected when coming out of such a block as the body isn't acclimated to heavier loads? Thanks. That's exactly what it is. Body isn't acclimated to it. Now they might feel heavier, but if you successfully completed a hypertrophy block, your performance should improve on those. Meaning, let's say you ran a very successful hypertrophy block and you saw improvements in your performance and you gained muscle mass on it. Depending on how advanced you are, if you're fairly advanced, you might not see any significant increase on these, but your 3-rep max might feel heavier, but you actually should be slightly stronger. In theory, you should be able to push a little further, but you don't necessarily have to do that the first week. You're going to need several workouts to acclimate. Meaning, if you've been doing sets of 8 to 10 with 70%, and now you've gone up to 80 to 85% for a heavier block, the first couple of workouts, the weight is going to feel really heavy because you're not used to lifting that weight. And a lot of people say, well, you know, if I do some partials, that will help. No, it won't. It really won't. Because you're still got to lift it through the weakest part of the range of motion, and that heavier weight is still going to feel heavy coming out of the bottom. You'll get used to it, and once you adapt to it after a couple of workouts, you should see improvements in your performance. You should find after the hypertrophy block that the little bit of muscle you gained should translate into a very small increase in performance. But yeah, you've lost some neural efficiency and the weight's going to feel heavy because you haven't touched weight that heavy in a month. That's the nature of it. That's just how it is. But you'll acclimate pretty quick. As soon as you get used to holding that heavy weight in your hands again, or having it on top of your shoulders or whatever lift you're doing, you'll be fine. Alright, next question. Jason, could high-paced walking 10 minutes per kilometer be considered cardio? I walk every day minimum 4 kilometers, so do I need to add cardio for health, or is my walking enough? Thank you and forward. So 10 minutes per kilometer, walking a minimum of 4 kilometers a day, brisk walk. That's probably decent for overall health. Not saying you couldn't do more, not saying there couldn't be benefits to doing more than that, but you know what? That's 40 minutes of brisk walking every day. Most medical doctors and experts would say the average person, if they're sedentary, would see very noticeable health benefits from that. Now, I'm not saying doing an hour a day wouldn't have some benefits, but the majority of the health and fitness benefits you're going to see are going to come from that, and meaning like actual positive changes in your blood work, improved cholesterol, improved fasting glucose, improved blood pressure. That's actually going to handle the majority of it. If you were to do more than that, you would probably only see some small improvements, but they would be small improvements, and you would increase your overall endurance. So it really depends on what you're looking for. Like, are you trying to get just enough to make your blood work look pretty and just be healthy? No problem. Are you trying to do it as a serious endurance endeavor, or burn a lot of extra calories for weight loss or weight management, things like that? Then you might want to increase it beyond that. That needs to be based just upon your individual goals and what you're trying to do. All right, next question. Jason, can you please talk about why you always do 3 rep sets on push presses and why this is better than training a bit lighter and doing more reps? Better is a relative term. And actually lately I've been doing 5. So I've told you guys lately because I am kind of losing body weight right now. I'm down 19 pounds right now. And I know the camera doesn't always show it. It's kind of funny because the camera very rarely shows changes. But the thing is, it's definitely been changes. My clothes fit different. People in person notice when I gain muscle or lose fat or whatever. Friends, family, people like that. It's obvious if they haven't seen me in 2 or 3 months and something's changed. On the camera, people don't really notice it as much. That's just reality. But for me, I find that preserving muscle mass is usually a bit easier when you go up to 5 reps or more on most of your lifts. So I'm actually doing 5s right now. But why the triples? Why would I even do high volumes of triples? Because I was also doing accumulation work for a while. When I wasn't filming, I was doing a lot of accumulation work. Meaning I was doing anywhere between 7 to 10 triples on all my main exercises. Whether it was push presses, deadlifts, everything else. But I wasn't using fairly heavy weight. I actually used lighter weight for triples for higher volume. So why triples? Because you can get more speed strength out of it. But people need to remember, when it comes to generating power, you can usually only do it about 3 times in a minute. Okay? You can only generate maximum force through a movement approximately 3 times per minute, or 30 seconds, at least without a break. Without a 30 to 60 second break, or a significant break of some type, you're only going to be able to generate maximum speed, maximum power about 3 times. I don't care whether it's a punch, a kick, lifting a weight, a push press, a squat. 3. You cut off at about 3 unless you get a break. So generally what has been found for speed work by the top lifters in the world, they do 2 to 3 reps. Even if they take 30 seconds between, they do 2 to 3 reps when trying to generate maximum speed. So that's really all it's about. It's just about generating speed strength. You can get better muscle fiber recruitment, your upper threshold fibers. You can train yourself to be faster, more explosive by staying in that rep range. I'm not saying you can't build strength and speed with higher reps. You can. It's just not quite as effective. It's about what are we utilizing here to get the most benefit towards a goal possible. And that's what that comes down to. It's just trying to maximize on a specific goal of getting everything that you can towards that specific goal. It's that simple. It's nothing complicated. It's just about the fact that you can't generate maximum speed more than about 3 times. So if you're focusing on power, sticking to 3 reps is probably best. You don't want to go above that. You can build maximum strength above that. You can build maximum hypertrophy above that. You're not going to get maximum speed strength, which is what some people train for, and I like having some speed strength. But, I mean, I've done a fair amount of it recently. Now I'm just trying to maintain muscle. Hopefully, if possible, get slightly stronger on some lifts, but I'm not banking on it for a little while because the weight loss has been pretty rapid. So trying to maintain my performance, maintain my muscle and all of that while I lose body fat is a primary goal. So I've changed rep ranges a little bit. But as far as gaining power and speed go, triples are the way to go, even if you have to reduce the weight to do more volume with it. If you're going to do more volume, you want to get 30 reps in, you probably need to do 10 sets of triples if your goal is speed and power. You just can't generate it as well when you go into higher reps. It's that simple. All right, next question. Hey Jason, I train the old school way with 5 to 10 reps. I really enjoy it and see a lot of progress. However, is it necessary for me to incorporate different lifts if I address my weak points with isolation movements? Talking in regards to your newest injury prevention video. You know what? It really depends. If some of your weak points are addressed with the isolation, you are reducing your chances of injury. But the reality is, we're talking about the injury prevention from lift variation, we are talking about using big movements, because what you're trying to do is to have strength through different joint angles and movement patterns that are slightly different from the primary one. Well, what's the reason for that? Because if your bar path slips. If your bar path slips and you're forced into a different position due to maybe a failed rep, maybe something giving out, that you're strong enough through those other positions, that you're less likely to tear or injure something because you have some strength through a different bar angle. And it improves all around general strength to do some variations. And what I mean by that, a perfect example, if you flat bench, doing a little bit of shallow incline work as a variation every now and then will help you maintain strength if the bar drifts too far forward. For example, the bar drifts out of your normal path, you have some strength through that extra path to hopefully not drop the bar on your face, or for the bar to come down at the wrong angle, rip something, pull something. That's the whole point of the lift variation and the injury prevention. All we're talking about here is making sure that you're stronger through different bar paths and angles, so that you don't have weak links that are necessarily going to tear or get injured if you get fatigued. You try to lift a heavy weight, or you get too fatigued in the middle of a set, because things happen, guys. Fatigue happens. There are times when we don't realize we're fatigued. We come in and lift. Maybe we got dehydrated. Maybe we're not recovered from something else we did, and we go to hit a set, and our 8 rep max turns into a 5 rep max, and we get buried under the 6 rep. It's going to happen. And the whole point here is that the variations will give you strength through a couple of different bar paths. So hopefully wherever the bar drifts, when technique breaks down, form breaks down due to fatigue, accident, something going wrong, that you have strength through different angles and planes. And that's the whole point. That's what we're talking about here, in addition to just building up different stabilizers, which can help you in a lot of ways. So hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, if you're doing that, even if you're doing that old school method, I would throw in some variations. Do you need to do them all the time? No, and that's kind of the point. Let's say you're focusing on doing the flat bench. You could do the shallow incline once or twice a month. Once or twice a month, even as an accessory exercise after the fact. And you'll get those benefits from it. All right, it doesn't have to be something you do every single week. You could do the extra exercise once every couple of weeks and get those benefits from it. It's just changing it up a little bit by throwing it in there. And it doesn't have to be a replacement. It can be an accessory in addition to your main lift. It can actually replace your isolation work for that day. Different ways to look at it. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.